Hello world, I'm LJ and this is LJ Goes Sweden. 2025 will not be the year full self-driving goes crazy in Europe. And there are a lot of things, and especially if we focus to Scandinavia, there are a lot of challenges that every car manufacturer has to solve in Scandinavia, and that is the winter. But before we're gonna do a deep dive into this specific topic, let's talk about the current situation of Tesla in Europe, and more specifically because I am living in Sweden, here in Sweden. Well, you have the basic autopilot that does lane assistance, so it keeps you in the middle of the lane, which is, in my opinion, a really good feature in summer. I really enjoy the feature. You have phantom brakings, unfortunately, sometimes, especially when you have like big trucks coming from the opposite lane. And also, of course, you have issues when you go off the main roads in Sweden, which are gravel roads. There the feature just doesn't work. Well, you can have it running from a well-maintained road onto a gravel road, but then it will just go like, it will not stay on the correct side and also not really feel comfortable if it gives you a normal speed due to a lot of potholes in gravel roads. Then if you want to give Tesla a bit more of your money, you can upgrade the basic autopilot, which now updates your cruise control and lane assistant to give you even the option to make lane changes. So by setting your signal, you can just make a lane change. And sometimes even, but I have not really experienced that very often here in the northern parts of Sweden, navigate on autopilot, which apparently also gives you the option to take the exits somewhat automatically. So I don't really know if that feature is still very accurate, at least here in my area where I am living. And then if you go full ham, you can go full self-driving, which unfortunately in Europe is not the same thing as in America. The only thing that is basically added here is that your car does stop automatically on traffic lights, but you still always need some kind of confirmation for the car to continue driving, also on stop signs. So I have not really experienced that myself because I have not bought these options. I just don't think it is worth spending that much money for the current features, and I really don't think we're gonna have the full self-driving experience that you are seeing in America in the current time in Europe very soon, unfortunately, because there are a lot of different things that make this full self-driving experience in Europe very difficult. First of all, well, obviously, regulations. Europe is built completely different than in America. I always tend to say in America, something that is not specifically written to be illegal is legal. And in Europe, it feels more like something that is not specifically legal is illegal. Of course, this is very basic, and if you go into details, you will see that this is not fully true in both cases. But at least in the general perspective, it feels like in America, Tesla can just do updates and then they're gonna work until there are like accidents and other reports where like some governmental thing is gonna inspect in that and then maybe change laws or create new laws that make it more difficult for car manufacturers to do things like Tesla has done. In Europe, it feels more like you have laws that are very strict, and if you want to get through this, then Tesla, for example, has to like somehow work very hard to make this approved. And it maybe even becomes more difficult because they have to like change certain things. And this is, for example, what I am expecting for full self-driving in Europe, that we're gonna have something where you always have to give some kind of input for the car to let the car know, now I am allowed to do these things. For example, I think it was BMW that already has this feature, is when you are like on a highway and the car, for example, wants to make a lane change, if you turn your head to the left, so you're looking besides you, you see that there is no car. You tell the car with an interior camera, okay, you have turned your head, you have approved the lane change, that the car can do this lane change itself. Or other examples, of course, like the basic input by touching the steering wheel, giving like a little nag to the left, or like setting the signal, or like an accelerator press, or something like these. So these are things I really think Tesla has to implement in full self-driving. And the very difficult part here is, in my opinion, how do you make these human inputs that need to be like hard-coded somewhere in the Tesla software, because like the interior camera needs to check for these, how can you make these communicate with the AI that is trained in the background to do everything for the car based on the training data? The thing with AI is it works, and it works until you tell the AI to not do certain things. But I have this feeling that Tesla has to basically train the interior camera on the person as well to make it somewhat connected to like this whole model, instead of hard coding certain parts and others not. Maybe I'm wrong and it's way more easy, but in my opinion, I think it's gonna be a very difficult task to meet EU regulations for full self-driving. Okay, and now let's imagine Tesla has done everything full self-driving would be able to run in Europe, in Sweden, and what happens next? Well, full self-driving in America has already a lot of training data. They have years of experience there, and when they gonna release full self-driving in Europe, it's gonna be a whole different world. First of all, you don't have the training data that much, at least based on like the AI drives, and you give your like input, hey, that was wrong by the AI. Of course, Tesla has a lot of training data available that they could train the AI with, but there is still like a very big difference also like in the time they had to train the AI. And of course, FSD in America has already a lot of time for this huge model that drives right now for FSD 13.2, 13.3. But in Europe, there's also this big difference, and that is Europe's signs are very, very different to America's signs. So in America, you have a lot of road signs that are written out specifically what's allowed, what is not allowed. For example, no turn on red. In Europe, it is more like for every scenario, you have a individual road sign. And in the future, like if you like really think like in 20, 30 years, I really think that road signs like in Europe are way easier for the AI to learn than reading letters, because of course the AI does not read specifically, but it knows what a certain sign means. But if you have like a rectangular sign with certain words on it, it's harder, I think, to distinguish between different like letters than distinguish between certain different symbols on a road sign in general. Also because in Europe you don't write so much information on the road itself, it's all on signs. So that is one thing that definitely needs a lot of experience and a lot of time for AI to be trained in Europe. The second thing is Europe feels more like every crossing is an edge case. You have so many individual roads in Europe that are not just fully straight. You have like really crazy curves. You have city centers that are so narrow. You have a lot of interaction with public transport that is very big in Europe compared to America, or like very common also. You have like trams running through, you have metros, you have the interaction with humans on bicycles is way higher than in America. I think like if you go through San Francisco, you have like somewhat of a good experience with like a lot of bikers and bicycles, but if you go to Europe, this is like a whole new level. And this is a very difficult case because you see the struggle with humans is always, how can you be careful around humans, but how are you not like so uncomfortable for the person inside the car that it's always stuck or it's not moving at all because there's so much stuff going around. So I really think that this is also gonna cause a lot of issues in the first years, probably. Not only year, I think this is really an issue where you need a lot of training data and where I really don't know if this is possible to solve as easy as it is in most of America, I would say. And now let's talk about the final boss of full self-driving that I also think will not be solvable even if you put LiDAR on there, if you put radar on there. Like even with the biggest technology and all the money you have, I think the biggest issue for full self-driving, for autonomous driving will be winter, especially Scandinavian winter. I am always curious to see like videos from America where people are using full self-driving to drive through snowy situations. And I have to say I am impressed how good the car is staying to the right of the side and still figuring out like where should be like the corner that I should not hit or something like this. But here in Sweden, what I have witnessed, for example, last week is so challenging that even human drivers fail all the time with. And that is the problem of a lot of snow. You have no information about where is the road, where does the road end, and especially how do I not get stuck. And that is something where I just think maybe with the front bumper camera it will be more easy to track, but even with that I really struggle to say that this might be the final boss that full self-driving will not be able to solve. For example, last week when I was walking home, there was like 20 to 30 centimeters of snow on the road because there was just not enough time for like a snowplow to clear the road, and you had tracks on this road, like 2 tracks, of course, for like perfectly 1 car to drive on there. And full self-driving needs to learn how to center the car really on these things, because if it doesn't know that and it drives a bit off, it might get stuck. And if it gets stuck, I don't know if the car is able to like realize, okay, maybe I reverse and then go forward again on the track that is already made by other cars. But also in situations, for example, where you only have like 1 track, but actually it's like a road where other cars can also come from the other side. How do you interact in these situations? Because usually how it goes is like 1 car waits somewhere where it feels like comfortable, for example, because it maybe goes a bit downhill, to get back on the other track when you have passed them. But how does the car understand all these things with like a bit of an inclination, and especially like if the road is too small and there is no information where is the road? So I see a lot of issues with that. And even if this is only like an edge case and not on the main roads, in the future full self-driving should work everywhere, right? So this is an issue that needs to be solved. And even on main roads in heavy snowy situations, you also have the problem of covered road signs. How does the car manage to drive when you have no visibility of the road sign? It's a problem for human drivers as well, especially like, for example, you drive and you have no information what the speed limit is now, and there comes a speed camera. How would a human driver react? Probably slow down very much based on the environment. Maybe think like, okay, is it like a 50 kilometers per hour zone or 30 kilometers per hour zone? So you would drive way slower just to be sure, even if there would be no speed camera. How does the car react? How does it know if this is a speed sign? Or how does it know if it's like, for example, a stop sign or something else? There is a lot of things where snow just makes driving impossible. It's impossible for humans at certain scenarios. So it will also be, in my opinion, impossible for autonomous cars and buses and whatsoever. And I really don't know how Tesla is going to manage to do these things when they are planning to release full self-driving in Europe this year. Because, like, I wish Tesla would do so. I wish Tesla would give the opportunity in Europe somehow like manage all those EU regulations so that the cars can drive in Europe, even if like the driving behavior of full self-driving would be like on a level of full self-driving version 11 or even below that. I would be down to really like try out the car. I would love to make videos about this because I love using the autopilot, not because like it's so comfortable all the time and I feel like confident that it works 100% of the time. That is not true, but I love to see the car behave. I love to see how the car just manages difficult situations. One time there was a road construction, like also around my area, and there was a lane closure on the lane that I was driving on. And I was on autopilot and the car would have hit the road closure. The car didn't brake for this obvious road closure, for this obvious obstacle. The car would have just went straight through that if I would have not interrupted and went like on the other lane until the road closure is done. And these are things where I don't like complain about the autopilot because I know that this is not what it is used for, but I love figuring out those cases. I love to see where does the autopilot fail, where are the weaknesses, because that is just like my curiosity. I am a test engineer at work. I love to play around with things and see how far I can go before something breaks. Where can I find bugs? So this is exactly what I wish would happen this year. Tesla just releases something and we're gonna manage it. But the message with this video is not that I don't think Tesla will release full self-driving in Europe. I just think it will take many years of experience, of training data to make full self-driving work, even in summer only. In winter, I really have to say that I don't think full self-driving or other autonomous driving features from other manufacturers will work in Scandinavian winter in the next 20 years, maybe even. Like, of course, I wish it would do so, but I think it's very difficult. Especially because snow is all white and with a pure camera solution, it will fail because humans also fail. I myself struggle to find sometimes the difference between the road and like the end of the road when all is covered with snow, when it's also like of course a lot of snow. If there would not be certain like cones or sticks that are placed to signal where the road is, but sometimes like those things are also like falling down and are covered with snow and you don't even see these things. So yeah, that is my opinion on the full self-driving situation in Europe and especially in Scandinavia. What do you guys think? Do you think we will see some version of full self-driving in Europe by the end of 2025? If so, let me know down in the comments below. Would you be one of the first people who wants to try that out if they release it? Or would you be like, let's wait a few weeks or a few months or maybe even years before you try it out? Because I would be down to do it in the beginning because I know that I have to interrupt. I know that this is fully supervised, that I would not trust the car, especially in the beginning, weeks and months. But now I talked a lot. Thank you very much guys for watching this video. Give this video a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe my channel if you want to hear more opinions about the current situation with Tesla, what I think about these, and also if you want to see more Tesla driving content in winter. If you already saw my videos where I tested my car in winter, let me know down in the comments below if you want to see more tests and especially what type of tests you want to see. Because I feel very comfortable with all the tests I have done. I know the limits of my car, but maybe you want to see more stuff that I can do for you guys. Because I have fun trying these things out, but I just don't have like more crazy ideas where I would say like, okay, this and this. There is going to be an ice video coming up by the end of the winter, because now we still have too much snow. That makes it especially difficult to go to the airfield where I have done a few videos in the past. this is supposed to be coming up, and I also want to do a camping at very low temperatures, but unfortunately the temperatures are right now like 0 degrees Celsius, so 32 Fahrenheit I think. Yeah, but if you go down to like -20, -25 degrees, I am going out to do a camping video because I want to see how much battery the standard range Model 3 takes in these cold winter conditions. Okay, but now enough said, guys. If you want to support my channel and you want to buy a Tesla, feel free to use my referral link. I would be very happy if you can do so, because then I could invest that Tesla money in software features that make it more easy for me to, maybe even get the full self-driving in the future. Okay, but enough said. I hope you had a wonderful day. We're gonna see each other back in the next video, but until then, bye bye.